My Corona. Got to make a grocery run. Well, that sounds fun. Why am I out here risking my life? Corona, where's a goddamn parking space? Shit, I touched my face. Wait, I think I finally caught
Hi there.
my Corona. Stop it, don't be manic.
Hi there, Evan. How are you tonight?
Oh, no.
I'm good. How you doing, Christine?
I'm good. A little nervous about this pandemic, but I'm good, thank you. And it's Sunday, March 29th, 2020. I'm corresponding from Cumberland, Maryland. And where are you coming through from, Evan?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Christine. And yeah, this is a scary, scary time right now, isn't it?
It most certainly is. And we're broadcasting this kind of impromptu broadcast, just trying to bring awareness and, just touch on a few things. And Evan and me, Evan and Christine, we go way back. We're old friends. So we decided we'd get together to do this.
We used to live in Ohio together.
We did. We made hamburger helper stroganoff together while in our pajamas.
Yep, just made some the other night and thought of you.
How romantic. So, Evan, right now, we talked about this just before we began recording. And today's Sunday, March 29th, 2020. And we're up to over 141,000 coronavirus cases in the United States of America. We've got over 2,475 plus deaths here in the U.S. And we've got 716,520 some odd numbers reported cases globally, and 33,692 global deaths. I mean, this is pandemic. This is extraordinarily serious, and I'm encouraging our viewer audience to take this very seriously. So, Evan, what can you shed light on this matter for us tonight?
Well, I want our listeners to know that the data you just gave us, we talked earlier at noon, and that's jumped almost 10,000 just since noon. So if you're not taking this serious, maybe you need to look at some of the things that the internet's putting out there, the government's putting out there. Later on in this show, I've got some charts that you can see about how it's growing just in the last 3 weeks. It's insane.
It's exponential, Evan, isn't it?
It really is. Are you self-quarantining?
I am.
Me too.
I'm being proactive. It was not ordered. It was not ordered to my state yet. I'm in the state of Maryland. Governor Hogan of Maryland gave an advisory that we stay at home, but it's not a direct government order. So what I'm seeing, and what I was seeing before I stepped into self-quarantine, was just a lot of people being reckless, Evan. A lot of people out there having close social contact. It's unfortunate. And I came across sick people even. So once I was exposed to someone that was coughing and sniffling and runny nose, I decided to put myself in strict quarantine, even though it was not mandated or ordered in the state of Maryland. But in the county I'm in, there's cases east and west of us. We've got a main highway throughway that travels east to west, so this area is very much at risk, just like all others actually. And travel is a real issue. I encourage everybody to stay home.
In the same boat here in Iowa. We haven't been mandated to quarantine, but it has been suggested strongly. And like you said, I just self-quarantined. And there's a reason for that. I'm immunosusceptible because I have COPD, and I know that you have a past history. You want to tell us about that?
I do. I'm a 2007 ARDS survivor. ARDS, ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, is actually what's killing people now from coronavirus. That is what the ventilators are needed for. is for the condition of ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. I'm an ARDS survivor of 2007, and I did not walk away from that okay. It took me 9 years to recover. I suffered vocal cord dysfunction. I had no voice. Immense respiratory problems just for years and years. And I actually just recovered from it like 10 years later. And I did not walk away from that clean even 10 years later. I had PTSD as a result. I was in a coma for 2 months in the intensive care unit, the ICU, on life support on a mechanical ventilator for ARDS, which is the exact condition that people dying from coronavirus are dying from. ARDS has a 40% morbidity rate. So 40% of the people that come down with ARDS from coronavirus will not make it. It won't make it. These ventilators are needed. They're necessary. We need more of them, but they are no, trick rabbit. They're not going to save the lives we need to save. They're going to save some lives.
What's really cool, though, about that is, I don't know if you've read about it, some of the auto manufacturers have stepped up and started using their assembly lines to make some of these ventilators.
That is true, Evan. GM has done that. They're despite Trump's badgering and acting as though they're not working, they're actually working very hard. Well, we won't get into Trump rhetoric just yet, Evan.
Yeah, let's kind of steer away from that for a little bit. We don't want to offend anybody.
No.
In any political side right now, we're just talking about how scary it is right now.
It is very scary. And I'd like to give a shout out to the companies that are doing a good job. They're stepping up to the plate. They're doing things for their customers during this rampant coronavirus pandemic. I'd like to say thank you to AT&T for the free 10 gigabytes of data that I was given yesterday when I paid my bill for this upcoming month. They're doing that because they want to keep connections going. Telecommunications are really important right now. I also get my internet through Atlantic Broadband. They serve from the state of Maine all the way down to Florida. They're kind of an East Coast internet company, Atlantic Broadband. I want to give them a shout out too, because they were waiving fees for me that they ordinarily charge me just to kind of relieve some stress for me during this coronavirus pandemic. I suddenly also have stars. Like, I suddenly have cable stations I never had before.
You probably paid your bill to some guy that thought you were cute.
His name was Zach. His employee ID number was 1275. I remember him. I actually called Atlantic Broadband back to make sure he got the props he deserves.
Right on. Good for you.
Yeah, Zach.
Out there that need those kind of props. And going with the same thought that I'm having the same thing with Mediacom here. They're not going to shut off anybody's bill during this pandemic and the quarantine. If any of you are listening out there, check with your service providers, man. They might be doing the same thing. There's a lot of people stepping up, a lot of companies. It's great to see this. Heck, there's a lot of good still in the world, man.
That's right.
We were going to talk about the arts.
We were going to talk about the arts. That was on our agenda for tonight. Thespians are in high demand right now, and with the self-quarantine going on, it's the perfect time for everyone's inner thespian to rise to their full potential and share their gifts and talents with the world. And Evan, I do believe you know about some groups and some things going on in your area. Just kind of set the example of what the thespian community out there is doing right now.
I do. I'm going to put this up on your screen here in a minute. But if you're interested, there's a lot of the theater companies in the nation that are doing live streaming of live theater. Some of those are including like Broadway HD and digital theater. There's the National Theater that's going to be live streaming. I'm calling it live streaming, but I believe it's a pre-recorded. Works once a week. Check it if you're interested in that. There's a lot of good services out there for that sort of thing. I'm putting it up on your screen right now. We'll get back to that, though. It's not just the artists, Christine. I mean, it's not just the thespians. I found something this afternoon after we talked that I thought you'd really be interested in. Singers. In particular, the one I'm going to talk about is John Bon Jovi. Have you heard what he's doing? John Bon Jovi.
Right now, no, I haven't. I haven't caught up with John Bon in a little bit.
Well, it's awesome that you see people like this stepping up and doing good things. Apparently, John Bon Jovi has some soup kitchens that he calls JBJ Soul. They're all up and down the East Coast.
Nice.
They're homeless people that need a meal type of things. And because some of his volunteers are not able to come out, he's been going in and helping with them, like doing the dishes, waiting the tables, that sort of thing. You just love seeing stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, JBJ Soul is the name of his soup kitchen. So honestly, we were gonna throw out some donations. If you want to make donations, might want to look him up and see if you can donate food or money.
That's terrific.
Yeah, I thought that.
I do. I want to speak on some organizations we all really would be doing ourselves and everyone else a good service to support right now. We've got the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. We've got the WHO, the World Health Organization, Dr. Fauci. He's our head WHO World Health Organization leader right now. He spoke on many.
Be listened to, man. Fauci.
Yes. I concur 100% because he's the guy. He's the leading expert. He's not political. He's apolitical, and that's a good sign. We want a doctor that's not biased. We want a doctor that's just going to give it to us straight.
Yep.
And Dr. Fauci is doing that, and I'm very proud of him. So you can donate. There's all kinds of opportunities to donate. There's fundraisers on Facebook, but right now with the pandemic going on, I'd like to encourage and implore people to donate whatever they can, whatever they're willing to the CDC and the WHO, the Center for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization. Facebook is actually matching $10 million on each of those. So we're trying to get up to 6,000. Excuse me, sorry, Evan. 6 million. So as we get to 6 million, Facebook's going to match 10 million to that for each of those organizations. So yeah, go team. I mean, we can all kind of double our money and kind of do twice as much good by donating to those particular fundraisers. Other than that, I want to encourage people to donate to their local food pantry.
Yep. I'm going to mention that.
Yeah, people of a lower...
They provide a lot of food. Your local churches, any place that reaches out and helps people in need, a lot of places around here, I don't know about there, but people are giving out food boxes. Churches are giving out food boxes. If you don't have the money and you're well, now make sure you're well, but you can donate your time by filling some of those food boxes. A lot of them are limiting that to like 5 or 6 people at a time, but they'll probably provide you the gloves and masks. Yeah, global, local, donate, help. If you're concerned about this like we are, man, reach out and help. You can help.
You can help You can be on the front lines and help. There's lots of states, like the state I'm in, that has a state of Maryland Medical Reserve Corps. I'm registered because I was a
Nice.
formerly employed first responder. You can donate blood to the Red Cross.
Good idea.
They're
I didn't
still
know
doing
that.
blood drives. They need plasma. We need plasma right now and blood. We're going through a shortage right now due to this national health crisis.
That hadn't even
And the
occurred to me.
demand is just, yeah, no, there's a big demand where we have a shortage for blood and plasma right now. It's very easy to set up an appointment to donate either blood or plasma, or platelets. All you have to do is download the Red Cross free app, and it's very easy. It's very user friendly, and you can set up your appointment that way. And they'll let you pick the dates and time and everything else. The Red Cross needs all the volunteers it can get right now because they're the backbone of our blood and plasma supply in this nation.
That's nice. I didn't even think about the blood supplies and the Red Cross. That's great info.
Yeah.
So get out there, help, donate. But if you can't get out, something else that I'm sure a lot of you heard about is the shortage of masks. Now, I don't know about your local hospitals, but our local hospitals have been getting people to make masks for them. And there's a lot of places you can get free supplies, even instructions on how to do it. And I'll put this up on the screen here in a minute, too. Like Joann's Fabrics. Check with your Joann Fabrics store. A lot of them, I think there was over 800 or 900 of them in the nation, are donating the supplies for that. And you don't have to go in. You can call. They'll tell you how to get them shipped to you, or they'll do a curbside pickup. So Joann's is stepping up. And
Nice.
yeah, and there's a lot, just a lot of places on the web that will show you how to make these. One I'm going to put up on the screen here is called Berkeley Side. It's under the title of If You Can Sew, You Can Help Those on the Front Lines of COVID-19 Fight. And I'll put that web address
Nice.
up there in a minute. It's people are just stepping up right and left. It's great to see this sort of thing. I don't know what else.
But Evan, I do have to say, I mean, the fact that we need to call on our American people, that we are in that short supply, that we are having to call on tattoo artists and nail shops, salon owners, anybody who's got face masks that wants to step up to the plate and donate. We're getting companies like Joann Fabrics, and we're getting these kind of smaller companies that aren't mainstream that are stepping up to the plate. Well, that's because the demand is real. The demand is high, and they're needed. They're needed.
Yep. These people are heroes in my book, man.
I agree.
Our nurses, our doctors, well, especially the nurses, because they're the ones that have it. They're within the most contact of people. But, you know, all the medical professionals, EMTs, your police officers. Think about it, man. I mean, they're out there every day doing their job. Doesn't matter. They're essential personnel. Of course, so are our retailers. We're learning that now. I find it funny, don't you, that there aren't any billionaires listed as essential personnel right now? It's all okay, there's my little dig for the moment, but
You mean the Bilderberg Group isn't on? The Bilderberg Group
nope.
hasn't volunteered yet?
Millionaires and billionaires donating money, so I'll put them on essential.
There are. You got to give props where props are due. You know who you are, people. You know if you've helped. You know if you haven't. If you haven't, get busy.
That's right.
Yeah.
What else we got for the folks here?
Well, I mean, we could go into Trump rhetoric, but we might not do that. We might not want to be like every other broadcast that slams Trump.
Yeah, we really don't
I mean, even though I don't like him personally.
either, and it's kind of too easy.
Okay. It is too easy. Trump makes it too easy
He
to,
just makes it so
to
simple.
poke holes in his thing.
But again,
So I will say, in regards to that, I will say I would recommend to the public watch the press conference news briefings, the
Good.
presidential press conference briefings. You can find them live and then watch them, afterwards after they've already gone on live, to really see what he's really saying and what's really happening. It's very easy to go to secondary news and get a twist and a spin and for good or bad or indifferent. That's not my point, but all I'm saying is you want to know what's really being said. And the best possible way you could find out what's really going on is to go to the horse's mouth, which is the presidential briefings, the press conference briefings. That's what happens before the media picks it apart and edits it down and spins it down and makes rhetoric about it. You can watch that for yourself. You can watch those briefings yourself live or, after the fact, because they're on YouTube. And, I just encourage people to use their good, naturally gifted intelligence and critical thinking. And, just, it's good to see. It's good to get the information. What I do, Evan, is I watch the briefings and then I'll go back a couple hours later and I'll watch Fox, NBC, ABC, CNN. I'll watch them all. Like after I've already seen the briefing myself firsthand. And you can it gives you a broader kind of more realistic kind of view of things. If you kind of get all the information and then do some critical thinking and
hear all sides, right? Get every point of view. Make your own decision. Makes sense.
That's right. I mean, you already know I don't support Trump, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah, we don't want anybody to be turned off. We're just here.
And I don't know what your political views are, Evan, but we've been good friends for a long time, so it doesn't even matter to
My
me.
political views are, and you and I are pretty much aligned on that.
You're pro-cat. You're pro-cat,
right.
Evan. You're
That's
pro-cat.
I'd vote for my cat. My cat's back here behind me sleeping.
Zoe.
Zoe.
Is she on the piano back there?
No, she's on my couch,
Oh.
right behind the piano.
She doesn't lift a finger around that place, does she? She doesn't do dishes or nothing.
I don't know how to do that. Maybe strap a brush to her tail or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think you'd have to trick her. Cats are pretty savvy. I mean,
She'd lick the plate clean.
they don't mess around.
She's weird too. She loves.
She licked the dishes. She lick them clean.
Yeah, works for me.
And cats can't get coronavirus, so that's safe, Evan.
That's true, man, and no animals can. At least they can't transmit it to you. A lot of people are worried about that.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, you need to you need to not worry about that so much. There's no data showing that you can get it from it. Sure, it originally came from an animal, but it transmuted in the human population, and that
It did.
what we got. And actually, if you're not concerned about this, I'm not trying to scare you, but I told Christine this earlier. It's not just one strain of coronavirus. There are 8 strains out there. Think about that. 8 different strains, and each one of them changing and mutating and growing exponentially. Right now, just to give you a little insight on it, I'm going to show a small graph that this is just Iowa.
Nice.
Yeah, you've seen this. It's pretty neat, but it's scary. This graph shows you the timeline in real time over the last 3 weeks. And as this graph is going, I want you to pay close attention to just a week ago. It's March 29th. March 21st, I'm thinking, is where you'll notice that this graph goes up exponentially. It starts jumping from tens and dozens to hundreds then, and that's just in a week.
It's just like a out of control wildfire we're dealing with. I mean,
what's it going to be like next week?
I know.
But that gives me the shivers.
Stay home. Stay home. You can't catch it or give it away if you stay separated.
Yep. Wash your hands often, like they say. Now, something I didn't tell you this earlier. Something I found out earlier too. Now a lot of us have heard that hand sanitizer, doesn't work as well. It's not as good as washing your hands. But if you're worried about your hands getting cracked and dry from washing them so much, the thing that does that is hot water. And I just read a study showing that you don't have to use hot water. It's not the water that cleans it off, it's the soap.
Yeah.
Antibacterial soap, if you're afraid you're going to get all cracked, splitting hands from washing your hands so much, don't use hot water. Use cold water.
I'll tell you, good old-fashioned soap goes a long way if you know how to use it right. You know how you use it right, you just use it. So, I want to give some shout outs. Evan, I think it's important. We talked about the thespians earlier, and we talked about those that maybe aren't technically a thespian, and they're not technically in a theater, but they have some real talent and gifts and creativity. And with self-quarantine going on and stay-at-home orders, now's the perfect time to get creative, people. And most people have cell phones and can record and hopefully have enough storage left to be able to record some stuff and share it with the world. But I want to give some shout outs to our mainstream Earth. And I want to encourage people to watch too. Now, Jimmy Fallon of The Tonight Show has been doing The Tonight Show from his home with his own little kids in the background, like having to deal with the home.
I have to see that.
His wife has been doing the video, and it's adorable. Jimmy Fallon is just as terrific as always. Doesn't look as good without the makeup, but whatever. We still love him. And same with Seth Meyers. The Late Night with Seth Meyers. He's clearly geared a certain political way, but I find him very entertaining. Plus, I'm kind of on the same wavelength. But, you know, and he doesn't look like he's shaved in a week, Evan. But these are people that are typically in a studio in a live broadcast, and they're typically got a whole crew behind them, but they're still trying to carry on the magic, you know? They're still trying to carry on the magic, and Jimmy Fallon's doing it with The Tonight Show. Seth Meyers is doing it with The Late Night Show. And I also want to give a shout out to Trevor Noah. Yep. And he's doing The Daily Show, the Daily Social Distancing Show from his home. And he actually met with Dr. Fauci of the WHO, World Health Organization. Our leading expert was on the Trevor Noah Show. So I want to give a shout out to Trevor Noah. I don't know how he pulled those strings, but he got Dr. Fauci. And that can be found on YouTube. And these are people that are working from their homes. They've got themselves under self-quarantine. You know, they're on stay-at-home government lockdown orders. But the show must go on, Evan.
Yes, it does. It needs to. And
that's right. It does need to.
These guys are showing what you can do with social distancing. That's so funny. They're doing social distance late night shows.
Well, it's the Daily Show. It's the Trevor Noah Daily Social Distancing Show. So But you are correct. Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, they're in isolation. They're on lockdown at home. You see their bookshelves in the background. You see like their kids running by, and they're getting guests. They're getting guests. They're using telecommunications. They're using the internet. They're using the technology we have to produce their own shows, and they're doing that all on their own, and that's terrific. That's terrific. I encourage people to check that out. I want to mention Evan, and I want to hear your response. Any suggestions you have to people to stay sane right now during this coronavirus pandemic? I have a couple things I've listed. Plant a garden. Get in the backyard. Get in the garden beds. Get in the dirt. Nothing will make you feel saner and more connected to kind of the world and the universe than getting in it. And even though you can't leave home or you shouldn't leave home, you can do it right there at home. You can find a small little patch of ground to tend, make a garden or a bigger garden. And that would be a great time for people to really consider growing their own food and herbs.
Yeah, with a lot of people not working, that'd be a good way to stretch your dollar, although that's going to take a few months, but still.
It does. It's about 90 days.
That and go, hey, look, I made that. And, you have a good point. Just because you're quarantining doesn't mean you can't go outside. It just means that you can't meet with other people.
Right.
Go out, plant a garden, like she said. I'm a audio engineer and sound designer for a couple of theaters. I write music. You can see my keyboard in the background. I create things like I'm helping, Christine and I are doing this blog. I just got through writing the theme song for another friend of mine's blog, which is fun, and that's been fun.
He's very talented, people. You have no idea.
Draw, paint, whatever it is that you love doing or anything that you've wanted to learn how to do. I mean, think about it. You can find out how to do just about anything on YouTube nowadays.
That's true.
I'm all for finding things on the internet. If you want to learn how to do it, do it. Look up some old Bob Ross videos. Learn how.
Fix that broken down car that's been sitting out in the driveway, rusting.
Right.
There's YouTube videos. You can, and if you can't go to the store to buy parts, then watch MacGyver episodes. MacGyver will teach you how to build parts.
Works for me.
Where's MacGyver available? Is he on Netflix? Evan, do you have that information?
Probably. I'm sure he's on Netflix. If not, Google it. You can find.
Now would be a good time for MacGyver, everyone.
Yep. The friend that I was telling you about, I wrote their theme song for their blog. You know what she's doing right now? She's finding old dolls and turning them into zombies because she's way into zombies.
It's so funny you mentioned zombies because, there's the younger generation, like my daughter, like the generation of my daughter's age, born in the mid 90s and grown up since then. They're really disappointed. They wanted zombies for the apocalypse. They're not happy with this pandemic. I've been seeing the memes. I've been seeing the memes on Facebook. The younger generations are really. They think it's horse bleep that we got a virus and not zombies. They were really hoping for zombies. Unfortunately, it was something much worse than zombies, I think. But, and it's hard on the younger generations, too. You got to think of all the kids at home. It's, and I watched this great broadcast of these school-age children the other night on the news. And they were so bright and intelligent and were so good at expressing how this is for them, what it's like for them, elementary schoolers, and they're so bright. These kids are our future. They are so bright and intelligent. We really need to take care of them right now. And you know how eloquent and intellectual they were was what was so impressive to me, and wise beyond their years, saying things like talking about the fear and talking about the anxiety involved, talking about the uncertainty and not knowing what's going to happen next. I mean, it's scary for kids, and they're home with parents, and it's stressful for parents, and but I think we need, think about something probably it's not getting too much attention right now because of everything that's going on. That's how hard this is on kids.
I one of the age group I feel really sorry for right now is the kids graduating from high school. Think about it, man. One of the really important things that we had was graduation. Graduation was that's a mile marker, and these kids aren't able to go to their graduation.
Well, there's so many mile markers that aren't happening. I mean, even West Point, the military school has called off their graduation practices.
Oh, man.
And that's a big deal for anybody entering the military. But you know what? I mean, it's just the way it has to be. And excuse me. We're in the smoking room, so I'm going to smoke. It's tough on everybody.
What's that?
It's hard on everybody. Hard on everybody. But I do want to address the amount of... Go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say, even if you're not worried about it for yourself or for your kids, think about who you can be passing it to, man. Do you have a parent or a grandparent that's in an old folks home? Don't go visit them. Yes, they're probably lonely. Have somebody teach them how to video conference like we're doing.
Yeah, FaceTime, whether you have that ability through just your cell phone and regular calling, or whether you can access it through Facebook Messenger. Is incredibly helpful to people right now. I mean, we basically have to stand together while standing apart. We have to stay separated, but we still need to stay connected.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's really important. I mean, I'll tell you, we all have our complaints about cell phone carriers and phone companies, but telecommunications right now is so vital.
It's key.
Yeah.
It's key.
So technology is helping us a lot. Now, you got to remember, Evan, back in 1918 during the Spanish flu pandemic, there was no telecommunications. No. There was not communications. And what killed, so the Spanish flu in 1918, Evan, killed more people than have been killed in all the wars we've been in as a nation.
Wow, I did not realize that.
Total. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. Go watch your Spanish flu documentaries on YouTube. I'm telling you, it'll be very enlightening to you. And what actually was the biggest culprit of just the severity of the spread of the pandemic back then was really lack of communications and the fact that people kept traveling. So you got to understand, when there's not telecommunications, something happens here. Well, people over here don't find out about it for a very long time. And by the time that information reaches here, these people have already gone this way. And it was travel. It was through ports, travel. The military had a lot to do with how it got spread because the way they were moving. Because during World War I, we got a war going on during the time of the Spanish flu. But I'll tell you, the biggest culprit, I think, of the Spanish to blame for the Spanish flu of 1918 was lack of telecommunications. Because if people had been able to communicate, they could have stopped, done something to stop the travel. Because this travel is a big thing, Evan. That's how it gets spread from area to area, county to county, state to state, country to country is through travel.
Right. I mean, obviously, that's how it got here from China.
But it's people traveling.
Right.
So right now, more than ever, it's important nobody travels. Stay home.
I know. I see so many people, friends of mine, that are traveling right now. And I'm like, why are you traveling? And they're like, oh, we're not worried about this. I'm like, you're not worried about passing it on to somebody else or picking it up somewhere? Like you were
That's a
talking
good
about.
point, Evan.
Yeah. Like you were talking about earlier with the people at work. Yeah, I realize you got to make a paycheck, but be polite, be cognizant, be aware that you could be affecting other people. What was it you were talking about at the grocery store? Somebody coughing, sneezing, wiping their hands on it, then turn around bagging your groceries? Or stocking the shelf?
Basically, that's going on all over the place. I hate to say it, but it's going on right now. And I understand it's allergy season. I understand some people have chronic conditions this time of year. We've got all our blooming flowers out. But here's the thing. If you are showing any symptoms that are in common with the coronavirus, okay, you need to self-isolate. You need to self-quarantine. And I understand, but I do, and I know employment, people have filed for unemployment. They're hoping to they're going to get the stimulus, to help them. And it's not a lot, and it's not going to help that much. But we really need to hunker down and do what's best for humanity right now. It's not time to be selfish.
Well, and like we talked about earlier, okay, great. I know you got to make money to pay your bills, but there's a lot of places like we were talking about earlier that will help with food. Check with your landlords. My landlord right now has a forgiveness policy. If we're late, I mean, right now I'm fine. I'm semi-retired, so I have a little bit of money anyway. A lot of people don't have that luxury. There's a lot of people that are stepping up and saying, hey, don't worry about it. Take care of it when you can. Like we talked about with the media companies, your internet provider and mine not going to shut anybody off during this time. Salvation Army I talked about earlier. Salvation Army helps people that are in critical need.
But I think it's important worth mentioning that even though these companies are stepping up to the plate and doing something really generous to help us out, isn't going to mean your bills disappear.
No.
So people still, I think cognizant was a good word you used, Evan. People need to stay cognizant because now's not the time to take advantage of the thing.
Very true.
We're being provided. And some states have actually passed legal orders where nobody can be evicted right now. But that's no reason to be irresponsible or not stockpile your rent, or you should pay it if you have it. Right. That's kind of like worst case scenario type.
Yeah, just because they're being lenient doesn't mean that they're forgetting about the debt. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And being cautious, what you were talking about with something else I read about that people should think about. You see a lot of people wearing rubber gloves. That's great if you're changing your gloves after every place that you visit. But if you think about it, you're wearing those gloves all day long. You're still picking up the same germs. And
Yep. And if you touch your face or touch your mouth, your nose, or touch anything else.
That's right. Those only work if you take them off and change them out every now and then. The best thing is to wash your hands all the time.
Well, we got a serious shortage right now, Evan, as you already know, of PPE equipment, of protective equipment. And we've got doctors and nurses at ERs that are wearing the same gowns and gloves all day long and masks. I mean, it's a real crisis we're in. So will you mention one more time what people can do if they want to help out with that protective equipment, what they can do to help produce that?
Well, yeah, and I'll put this up on your screen again. Check with your local hospitals. A lot of them are taking donations of masks. If you know how to sew, Make some masks. The Joann's Fabrics, I brought that up earlier. Joann's Fabric will donate the supplies to make them, and there's a lot of tutorials on the internet about where you can go. I'm putting that up again right now, but a company called Berkeley Side has an email, or not an email, a URL address that you can, if you can so, help those on the front line of the COVID-19 fight.
Nice.
It'll show you how to make those masks. Get the supplies. It's great. A lot of people are stepping out, and it's a good thing to do when you're bored. You know, especially.
And don't forget, if you can locate masks or gloves at the store, buy them and donate them.
Yep.
I bought 2 boxes of latex medical grade gloves. I was able to find at the store. All the shelves were empty, but I was able to find 2 boxes. I donated them to my local department.
Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we can do that too. We can do stuff like that too.
Yeah, I read a thing lately, or just recently. I mean, a lot of people are stepping up. Let's go back and give them kudos again. There was this guy at a Walmart, I forget where, in Tennessee, I think it was, that people, you know, the elderly who are having the hardest time were going in and couldn't find toilet paper, that sort of thing. He was sitting outside in his car and stopping them, going, "You need some toilet paper. I've got a whole bunch. I've got surplus." He was handing people out bags of toilet paper and necessities like that. If you
Did you know some of the South Charleston? Nice. Did you hear about the South Charleston Police Department that's passing out toilet paper instead of tickets?
Nice. No, I didn't hear about that. That's great. Kudos. You are so correct, ma'am. I love it.
Kudos.
Love it, love it, love it.
So, Evan, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover in this broadcast. Again, I'm Christine. I'm corresponding from Cumberland, Maryland. Evan, you are corresponding from Iowa.
Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Where in Iowa?
Largest city. Cedar Rapids, Iowa, second largest city. And if you remember that graph I put up earlier, something that scared me is actually we have more cases than the largest city.
Now, it's my understanding New Jersey has got the highest rates right now per capita.
Yeah. I know up on the upper eastern seaboard is being hit the worst. Yeah, but pretty close to where you're at.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Maryland. My daughter is in Rhode Island, which is very scary for me as a mom.
Oh, I bet.
Very scary. Because Massachusetts is getting blasted, and Rhode Island's so tiny, and the Department of Defense is in her state. So there's a lot of military people travel, people from New York. I mean, but New York's on lockdown. New Yorkers shouldn't be traveling. I'm hoping nobody's seeing New Yorkers traveling right now.
Just be careful, folks. Just be careful.
Yeah, and in response to that, I do want to bring up one thing. We've got what Trump is calling quadrants. We've got our high risk, medium risk, low risk areas. And those low risk areas are considered the areas, a lot of them are rural America with low reports of cases compared to other states are being considered low risk. But here's the thing I want everyone to think about, Evan. They're low risk because people are practicing social distancing and self-isolation and self-quarantine. If we lift those guidelines and everybody starts mixing up together again, we're going to see spikes.
Yep.
We have low risk areas. They're not really low. It's just people are more spread out and they're staying home. Well, as soon as you put them back together, the risk goes up. So, congregating people right now of any kind is a bad idea. Although I understand we have an economy we have to somehow protect, but we can't do it at the expense of thousands and thousands of lives. Surely we can come up with a better plan than that. That's what I'd like to see. And I think Dr. Fauci of the World Health Organization. He's been up there speaking with Trump at the briefings. He's not a Trump fan. It's clear as day he's not. I like Dr. Fauci. And but you need to pay attention to what the experts are saying. So that's the doctors, the scientists, the data people.
Experts, that's a good piece of advice there, man.
Wishful thinking is not going to get us by on this one.
Well, like you said, hon, I think we've covered everything.
Okay.
Good talking with you. And I'm Evan. This is Christine. This has been the smoking room. You can see by the way we both smoke, or especially me. That's why we call it the smoking room. But social distancing, that's the key. And we're what?
Hi from Maryland to Iowa.
Yeah. How far is Maryland from Iowa? I wonder.
I don't know. I think it's an $80 Greyhound bus ticket, maybe.
Okay. I never thought about. It's an $80 Greyhound. Okay. All right, hon. Well, you take care up in Maryland, and I'll take care here. And all of you folks, if you tuned in to listen, stay safe.
My Corona. Got to make a grocery run. Well, that sounds fun. Why am I out here risking my life? Corona, where's a goddamn parking space? Shit, I touched my face. Wait, I think I finally caught my Corona. Stop it, don't be manic. Go inside. No organic? Oh no, all GMO. Jesus Christ, now I panic, I'll die.